Hey guys, before we start today, I wanted to let you guys know that Brett Sheridan and I will be at Flappers Comedy Club February 13th at Burbank, 8 p.m. on The Jake Lewis Show. You can get tickets at Flappers and look for The Jake Lewis Show. It's going to be a lot of fun. Me and the douche will be there. All right, peace. Enjoy Sith. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sith Council. It is Wednesday. We are very happy to have you here today. I guess a lead up to Mandalorian is really where we're at. Yeah, we're going to do the Bad Batch episode. I think it's episode 5. Yeah, sure, why not? Episode 5 is when we'll be covering that for Bad Batch. These two idiots. Already. Haven't even started already. Morons. So here we go. Once again, we have that. Daisy Ridley's back talking Star Wars. What could be the future of Rey, if anything? Amandala Stenberg talks about the Acolyte and what the shooting process has been like. Speaking of shooting process, that seems to be complete with Skelton Crew. How's that going to work? And we've got a lot of questions coming in from you guys, so we'll do that more. The original crew is back. Myself, Darth Sabraw, Kalinowski. Let's get at it.
I can feel your anger. It gives you focus, makes you stronger.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Sith Council. It is myself, Steph Sabraw.
Hello.
And there he is, Darth Kalinowski.
Hello.
Hey.
Back from Super Mario World.
Yeah. Without us.
It's me. I'm back.
Are you doing
I do.
Mario? Or are you doing Jared Leto from House of Gucci?
Come on.
Come on.
This is me. Look
Unbelievable.
at my fabrics.
They sound exactly the same. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to be... Mike wasn't here last week, so
I missed out.
You missed out. So did you
I
miss
can't
something?
wait to hear your thoughts.
I miss
on the
when I
Bad
don't
Batch.
like just the lead up to us getting ready to do the show. I miss you guys. I have so much fun. We laugh so hard.
Yeah.
This is my time of the week that I just love to hang with you guys.
I'm glad to have you back, buddy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
guys.
So
I did watch. Yeah, I'm caught up now because I didn't watch the first two and I was chastised for it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, well, you didn't watch the third one. You watched.
I
the
have
first
seen
two.
you after the New Year. Remember we said this? I haven't seen you after the New Year.
All right.
First week,
Oh,
yeah.
well, that's irrelevant.
But I'm caught up. Caught up on
You're caught
the
up on it.
Bad Batch.
Yeah, and how sorry. So you didn't love. See, Steph and I thought the first two were fine.
Yeah.
And then the third one we both thought was pretty good with
Right.
Crosshair.
Yep.
And the fourth one we thought was a throwaway episode with what's his name?
the
Tech running around.
Bargain basement pod racing.
Pod racing is
Yes.
exactly what it was. So then this one, now they're on a mission with Wanda Sykes and they're just
treasure hunting.
yeah, and then there's a big monster that comes in at the very end. And it's like, again, this is spoilers for this episode. This is two back-to-back kind of filler mission of the week episodes, in my opinion. Yeah. But what I will say is this. I have seen 14 of the 16 thus far.
Okay.
And that there are a few episodes that are really fantastic. I mean, like fantastic Star Wars stuff. This is not one of them. That's how I feel. But Mike, I'll start with you. What were your thoughts on this episode?
I get the show's just not for me.
Bored?
I'm not that I'm bored. I was looking at my phone a lot. Like,
Yeah, so
here's
bored.
the thing. So when I went to click on it, oh, Jesus. That's how it is. That's how it is. What?
What does bored mean?
You know what? When I was sitting here talking to you and you're like, don't worry, Mike, I'm on my phone, but I'm listening to me. Were you bored with my conversation?
Yes, she was bored out of her skull.
You
told
weren't.
No, I wasn't.
You weren't bored.
Oh, yeah,
I
I
know.
wasn't. I was
No, you
making
weren't,
an
but
order.
Yeah, but she was paying attention to you.
Yeah,
Not really.
Well,
Hold
then she was
on.
bored.
Can I talk now? Can I talk?
Yes, please, go ahead.
So when I clicked on it on the Disney Plus app, if you notice Bad Batch, Omega is like front and center on the graphic.
Mm-hmm.
That's changed since last season. Last season it was the Batch. Like they were all front. So this show is almost seems like it's pivoting more towards an Omega show. With the Bad Batch is the backup.
It's not that, though. I can tell you from
Okay,
watching
all
it.
right,
No,
okay.
but I can understand why you...
So, but I'm going off of 2 episodes right
Yeah.
now, and it's just like I hate
You're
to
saying
say
in the kid angle of it.
yeah, it's like I think that they realized the corporate looked at maybe when Iger came on board and they're looking at the marketing. What I was like, all right, you know what, Andor, that's adult.
This is way before Iger.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, but the graphics that can be changed daily.
True,
So it's just like,
true.
all right,
You're saying
this
market
show's
around
going
it.
towards the kids, and it is. I don't feel from the Clone Wars episodes that I've caught up on, and with the Rebels that I did watch and in my rewatches and whatnot. This seems like it's. I don't feel from the Clone Wars episodes that I've caught up on, and with the Rebels that I did watch and in my rewatches and whatnot. This seems like it's. I don't feel from the Clone Wars episodes that I've caught up on, and with the Rebels that I did watch and in my rewatches and whatnot. This seems like it's. different from those shows.
Yeah,
it just does.
Again, I have an unfair perspective here because, like I said, I've
Yeah.
seen it, so I know where it goes because they do go darker a couple episodes too, and like, away from just like a kiddish type thing. I had less. I don't have that particular feeling, Steph, like that it's geared towards children. I don't feel that way. I think kids can certainly watch this, but I feel like my issue with it is the issue that we've always had, and that's, what is this story? And the last two episodes are just about, okay, well, the argument's going to be, it's about Omega really fitting in and being attached to these characters and be attached to the Bad Batch and establishing the family. I already got that. I understand that already, but this is what it seems like to me. Where you stand on it?
Yeah, I feel very similar. I think that it's fun to watch, but I keep thinking like this episode more than ever and last episode feels like a video game. Like I'm like playing with it and like going through trying to find this treasure with Wanda Sykes, and it's fun. But I also feel like I need to compare it to last season, but I feel like the graphics even look a little bit more video gamey to me.
Interesting.
Like less in the Clone Wars look of it.
Yeah.
The music is continues to be phenomenal. It's my favorite
Music's
part
great.
of the episode.
Music's great. Yeah, Kevin Kiner's the man.
He's
the
good.
man. But yeah, I think that's the thing is that, and again, I just come from a different perspective. I'm excited for you guys to watch the episodes that I watch because there's some really good Star Wars episodes in this series. There's really some good ones.
Perfect example. This show, watching that episode versus watching, what was it called? Legends?
Which one? The one,
Just out.
Tales of the Jedi?
Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah,
both animated, but one is just, that's what I'm going to watch.
Well, you know
over
what?
this.
And that's a great point because I think that for me, I agree with you 100%. Tales of the Jedi for me had more of like for both storylines, both Ahsoka and Dooku had objectives for their stories. And,
Yes.
and even when they were like these
Yes.
little side particular things that were happening with Ahsoka kind of lost in the village, it still played into the overall thing. And I think that that's what this show misses sometimes, and maybe it's because they're doing 16 episodes.
You're right. And back in the day, people talk about filler episodes. You know, you had episodic TV of 22, 24-ish episodes.
right.
You would have filler
Lost,
episodes.
season
You
2,
have
famous for it.
what they're called bottle episodes,
Yeah.
where it's just one location. Where Mando, was it 13? But even the bottle
No,
episodes,
less.
even the filler episodes, what you would call them, were feeding into that overarching storyline. These don't to me. It just seems like,
Right, yeah.
and that's fine. But
Yeah, but some people
you
like
can't get
it.
mad at people if they go, where's the overarching story
Right.
here? What are we doing?
Well, I think that's why it's in the position, Steph, that it's in right now. As far as it's an appetizer before Mandalorian hits. I mean,
Totally.
that's what it is, and it's
Okay.
like, I think what it does perfectly is that, hey, look, I'm looking for. I just had Andor. I'm looking forward to watching. I'm a big Star Wars fan. I'm looking forward to watching Mandalorian, but I got nothing on TV. It's like, oh, I'll tune into Bad Batch. It's a fun little watch.
Yeah, I think it's what their focus is really trying to build, like through Andor, Mandalorian, and Bad Batch is like how the Empire really took over in its way and how it did so with the clones and just, I think, giving more supplemental evidence to the prequels and the movies that came after it, which I like. I don't fault them for it. It actually is nice, like to see, especially with the Crosshair episode, you kind of see how important the clones are because when I was a kid watching it, I got the clone aspect, but not really.
Right.
If that
Right,
makes
yeah, of
sense.
course,
So you're
yeah.
kind of getting more into the psyche of them and like the inhibitor chips and
That's the stuff that really works, by the
Yeah.
way, in this series. And it starts to, again, I'm not spoiling, but when they start to explore that element more and more about the clones
Chips
in
and
general, the clips, but the idea of the clones and what they mean to the Empire and how they're kind of like almost expendable and like that's the stuff that when they explore it, that stuff works.
Yes.
And they do that a lot in this series, but it's not in episodes like this. What I will say that this sets up really well that I didn't know, what I can tell you guys again, from watching the episodes, when I watched it the first time, I didn't feel this way. Wanda Sykes' character in this one, she's just like another character that kind of shows up that they work with.
Yeah.
This, you can make the argument for she has a bigger role to play. And because of this episode, it sets up a relationship with them. So that's where I'll say it does fit into
like
the
it,
story.
yeah.
Because her character winds up to do, and I like what they do with her character overall, because it's not just, well, what's the difference between her and Sid? And there's a major difference, like a major difference. She's a really good character that is set up in this episode. So that's the one pushback I'd give to myself, is that it's not just a mission of the week, even though it is, but because of the introduction. I mean, I know she showed
There's
up in
like a seed planted.
Their relationship is planted
Yeah.
in this, and the way that they work together, and the stuff at the end with it was like a monster movie, old school. It was very. I think like someone like Josh Robert Thompson would love this episode because he's like a big fan of like that kind of old school serialized, thing. Like this is something that you would turn on. This was, I think, and this is probably, if you would talk to Filoni, this is something out of like George Lucas's head as well too. Like the kind of like thing that you would watch if you were a kid in the 50s and turn it on, and like the monster show of the week.
Yeah, if I was a kid, this was like, the Goonies. It's so fun. Like every kid wants to be the one that finds something they go digging for in the backyard, and it ends up being a compass to a treasure chest.
Right.
That's like every kid's dream, right? So I like that idea. With Wanda's character, I really do actually love this character, but I feel like you establish her personality so well in the first 5 minutes when she's telling this grandiose story of her treasure hunting. And then maybe you can minimize the treasure hunt to like half the episode and then do something else with it.
Or just play into it.
I
But
mean?
yeah, and it's
But it's fine. It's fun.
Well, you know what it is? It's the fact that, like, because I even hear myself like, saying that too. It's because there's 16 episodes.
Yeah.
That's really what
Why
it is.
not?
That's exactly right. That's why they have episodes like this, because the answer of like, if they didn't explore any story of where it goes, because they do, and the show gets significantly better as it goes on. I will say that it gets significantly better. But there's towards the end of it, there's less of the fillers that they start to actually focus on a story. And I know you well enough that I think that once we get towards the end of this thing, you're going to really start to enjoy some of these episodes. It's the same with you, Mike. But this is the kind of stuff though that you watch and like Mike said, when he walks in, like, this show, I don't know.
Yeah.
There are a couple of episodes you're going to, and maybe because of episodes like this, it's the episodes that are really pop. Because Palpatine, we know in the trailer is
coming. Yeah,
and
I was thinking
I've seen
about
that
today.
episode.
I was like, remember the trailer? Like they're gonna reintegrate things like this.
Yes.
And then one little nitpicky note: it felt like Wanda's like so talented, but it felt like her lines were kind of chopped in.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Mike, you're very pensive over there. What's going on?
I have so many thoughts that you guys
Let
bring
them out.
up.
That's why you're here,
Okay, like first of all, this was just kind of a throwaway. Like it bothered you. It bothered me that the thing was called the Heart of the Mountain. Mm-hmm. That's the Arkenstone from the Hobbit films.
Oh,
so I was just kind of like, you guys not know what?
Right.
Come on now.
Or they did it, or it was an homage.
Or an homage. I don't know if it's an homage. You could have called it,
Okay.
the liver of the mountain or something. I don't know.
Beef and shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just curious. I was thinking about this because I'm doing a couple rewatches right now. One of the 90s Flash TV series.
Yes.
And also Batman the Animated Series, just on my own.
In what? Why? For the Flash?
Because I love them.
The Flash 90 series is fantastic. I'm just curious.
Rewatching
it's good.
It's incredible.
It's really good. I'm just curious why you picked that.
I'm just bored. I was going through doing a house cleaning after the Christmas stuff, and I have the DVDs, and I popped it in.
Very proud of you.
But I realized I was like, not one of those episodes strung together. They were all standalone filler, or you call them fillers. Like, when did we as storytellers in this world that we're in, everything now, episodic television became built to a big, all-connected...
But they were...
Was it with Lost?
I feel like, because I just started watching, not just, but last year I started watching the Batman series for the first time.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know because I wasn't born when it was made, but they were
You weren't?
establishing...
Oh my God,
they
Di.
were establishing DC, the world. So
Yeah.
much of what comes after that show is business, like the characters, and you know what I mean? Like you're playing on a new field. This, we know the world.
But that's what I'm saying. But for this show, would it be better if it wasn't building to a big thing? It was just like, this is the Bad Batch adventure of the week.
Well,
like,
that's what
talk about
they're doing.
Was it Josh Robert Thompson you were saying that would enjoy this? Like the adventure of the week.
But they're doing that.
But then you guys brought up great points. So I'm listening to you guys. That episode felt to me like in my head what I think Skelton Crew is going to be.
No, I don't think so.
It just did. I don't, and it might be completely wrong. It
Yeah.
could be completely talking on my head. But it felt like, I have a feeling this is what Skeleton Crew is going to be, like a crew of all kids, though, with one adult as opposed to one kid, all adults, going on these adventures, and they find a map or treasure, and they're.
I think they get lost in it, and we're going to talk about that. And we can.
He mentioned Goonies.
Yeah, we can get into that in a second. But before we do, I gotta tell you guys about Athletic Greens. You guys know how much I love Athletic Greens. I take AG1 by Athletic Greens every day. You guys know it. I've been talking about it forever, and there's a reason why they're on the shelf. I mean, they're on the shelf, for goodness sake. And why did I start taking it? I wanted better gut health. I wanted increased energy, immune system support. I hated taking pills, vitamins, and I wanted a supplement that actually tastes great. And that's what I do. You guys know it. I have that. I'm not going to lie to you. I saw it when I first started taking it. I was like, it's green. It's yummy. Tastes good. You get intimidated at first, but then after you take that sip, you're like, oh, man, they actually made it taste good. And I take AG1 in the morning. I put it in a water bottle, and I shake it up, and I love it. And I do it right before. Now I can do it right before the coffee. It's great. It makes me feel unstoppable. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do it. It's good for sleep quality too, by the way. It really helps with sleep quality. I noticed that right away. And I don't like combining all vitamins, and I've never been really a big vitamin guy, taking all the supplements and bunch of different things. This makes it easy for you. You just take it in one scoop. Done. It's 75 vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods. It's so good. It's so good, and it's so great. And you guys know for how long I've been talking about it, and I've gotten so many responses from you guys of people who've been trying AG1 and been loving it. And you get it delivered every month. Very easy to make it a daily habit. So if you are looking for an easier way to take supplements, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. You go to athleticgreens.com/bigthing. That is athleticgreens.com/bigthing. Check it out today. All right, so thanks again to our sponsors over at Athletic Greens. If you guys, again, I say it all every week, every day, every time we do this show. If you want to help the show out, but you want to help yourself out, get yourself one of our sponsors if it works for you. And Athletic Greens should work for you, man. We love Athletic Greens. We've been using AG1 for a long time. So as you guys know, I've been endorsing them forever. We only put people on this show that we really think that the audience is going to like. So we hope that you guys check it out and let us know. Use that code, but let us know when you do. All right. So we got some stuff that we're going to go over here, a few of the stories, and I'll start here first. All right. Skelton Crew. Here we go. So it's all wrapped up, at least according to a stunt person. Now, little is known about John Watt's new Star Wars. This is from Rosalie Lambert on Star Wars Newsnet. You can get all your stories, Star Wars news stories from Star Wars Newsnet. Now, little is known about John Watt's new Star Wars Disney Plus series Skelton Crew, but some light might have been shed on its production timeline by members of the stunt team. A since-deleted Instagram video was posted by stunt coordinator George Cottle, celebrating the end of filming and thanking his colleagues for their hard work. It was captioned, "That's a wrap on Skelton Crew." It was reported by Deadline, and the same sentiment was then by stunt actor Juliana Porter on her Instagram story, saying she can't wait to see what's in store. A spin-off series starring Jude Law is set after the events of Return of the Jedi in the same period as The Mandalorian. John Watts has described the plot as a group of kids who are about 10 years old when they get lost in the Star Wars universe. Disney appears to have a lot of plans for this post-Episode 6 era, as more and more Disney Plus content is exploring this time period. It seems as though Disney is keen to forge ahead in the Star Wars universe whilst attempting to keep fans satiated with characters and stories from eras they know and love. All right, so it's supposed to hit in 2023. We know that as well, too. All right, with this one, so the first thing that I said, and you get a kick out of this yesterday, of course I will. Monday, I was talking about how you look at this kind of stuff gets leaked, right?
Right.
It's by accident sometimes. Now, I said the person that did this, there's a few different options. Option one, the guy tweets out, very excited.
Yeah.
Tweets it out, gets a phone call. Hey, you got to take that down.
The hell you
nobody knows. Oops, sorry about that.
Yeah.
There's another guy going, watch this. Tweets it out, does it, and then they say, man, you got to take that down. He's like, come on, I can't tell what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
And he's a problem. And then there's the other guy. These stunt guys. You think these stunt guys are paying attention to the mystery box and all that? Clint, you think he cares? You know what he's doing? He's wrestling snakes in the backyard. And he's like, and they're like, hey, you want to take it down? He's like, oh, yeah? Come make me take it down. And they're like, it's like, Clint, you got to take this down, man. He's like, I'll tell you what. You come over here and you fight me. You hit me in the head with a glass bottle. If I don't fall down, you can't take it down. I'm going to stab you to death. And it's like, Clint, take it easy. It's like, you don't want to mess with these guys. But out of the either way.
I say, like, because all my buddies are stunt guys. That's like,
and they're tough bastards.
Yeah.
And you think they're paying attention to the mystery box?
A lot of times they're young kids too. It's funny that the stunt guys are getting younger and younger as I'm getting older and older. But it's funny because you said this shoots in England, right? Or I believe because you said George Cottle. Cottle was first time I came into not contact with him, knew of him, he built the Batmobile for Batman Begins. He was the driver of it. And so he's now coordinating. So I don't know where I was going with this, but like, I think he's like, it's like, you got to take that down. He's like, hey.
What are you talking about?
Like, Coddle's one of Coddle's guys posted it, not Coddle.
Right.
So they're going to Coddle. Like, hey,
take
you're
it
a stunt
down.
guy.
Right.
Tell him. And he's like, hey, mate, what are you doing? I got you a job there. You can't be doing that.
But what do you think,
Like,
though?
John's bullshit. He's
but
like,
it's also,
I know it's bullshit, but you want to
I
work
know, but
again.
it's also one of those things where it's like, so we wrapped on a film. It's not. He didn't say who's in it. Who was it.
Right.
He
But
wrapped on the film. Who cares?
Exactly. Who does
that
care?
could be like so arbitrary, that piece of information. He could have been talking to a friend and been like, oh yeah, I wrapped my last set.
I guess maybe because they don't want to have anticipation.
They don't want
around
any
the idea.
And, like,
They
people
just
just
want
on
a
their
blanket
job.
on it. Like,
Yeah,
you don't
because
say
they,
anything.
if they wrapped.
Release date.
Right, and they want to save stuff
But
for
then-
celebration.
So with
Right.
Star Wars Newsnet, they get the scoop and they post, stunt person says that filming's wrapped. Well, Lucasfilm wants, like, hey, here's our official statement. We've wrapped filming. They want to
do it.
Stunt guy number 5
Right.
that was a
I mean, I get. I
stormtrooper
guess it's
scene
also
that
maybe it's
said they
also about
wrapped.
precedent, also too, right?
But
Maybe
he knows the people that know are those people because
Right.
they're there on the set. Hey, martini shot last. We're wrapped. That guy's.
I know, but that's also it's probably precedent to really listen. It doesn't. It's little thing. It's
Sure.
like we wrapped, but we don't want anything out there.
Right.
So just take it down, and which makes sense. And
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, I'm just so curious of what it was like because there's so many different scenarios.
Sure.
There's the likely scenario of, hey, can you take that down, please? Because you're not supposed. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my God, you got it. Absolutely. And that's probably what happened.
Yeah.
But I just like the idea of the guy sitting on his porch with a cigar, waiting for them to come tell him, and they have to like approach him with like 6 different guys, and they're like, "Please take it down." And he
I ain't gonna take it down.
He's
You
like,
shut him, come make me.
right,
Like an old
Hey,
stunt
Jeff
guy's like,
Bridges.
Hey,
Yeah.
well, my day, we didn't care. We were rapping
Yeah.
on social media. You tell me to take it on yourself.
I'll take it down, but not before I take 3 of you down with me. It's like
I'll
that.
take it down when I take my pants down. You suck me off.
Whoa, kids. So but there's gonna
What
you
step?
went, you went one step. You just jumped with your pants right off.
It's always. This is the line,
Balls on
and
the
I
ground.
do this.
Right
I
off.
do this on the line.
Right off. All right.
You settle down.
You're doing
Right
the
over.
splits on the line.
Right over. Listen. So, but either way, but let's go. Unbelievable.
You guys missed me, didn't you?
Not
You
really.
missed me.
All right, listen. So we're getting
all right.
So we're getting
Bring it back.
We're getting back to the actual Skelton Crew itself because Mike had mentioned we talked about it.
Yeah.
One of the coolest moments that we had at Star Wars
Yes.
Celebration was at the
yeah.
hotel
Hotel.
when we saw John Watts out there and we started talking to him about the
Yeah.
show itself and he said it was like Goonies and he said it was like Stranger Things and he brought up but he said there's still like that like the moments in the Clone Wars that could get really dark, like it was like that, and so that got us excited, and how excited he was about the project also got us excited as we talked about it for quite a while after we met him. So the thing is, and they also mentioned this in the article, Skeleton Crew seems to be going more and more down the path of a potential big crossover event in this time period. There's these Timothy Zahn novels that Mike and I loved as kids, and it was the whole Thrawn trilogy, and there was always this kind of hope that they would do something in that realm. It looks like they're setting it up. There's little things that they look to set up, whether it's Luke talking to Ahsoka going, will I see you again? The idea of where is your boss talking about you, and Ahsoka talks about it with Thrawn. And then the idea of this is essentially another season of Rebels kind of all mixed in together. And then you put the Skeleton Crew in there. Yeah. The unknown regions are the thing that we have not explored yet. It is a great way to put Grogu out there and why we don't see him later on.
Yeah.
You can put everybody, you can put a bunch of different people out in the unknown regions because it's unknown, and it's also the time period is unknown, and space works differently, and all those types of things. They're going to set up a brand new thing that they can get away from the rules of the timeline and the stuff that we know. But I'm curious what you think, Steph.
Yeah, totally. I didn't even think about that. That it's like I also trust in John Watts to not do what you were talking about, which is kind of this adventure of the week. I think that he has like a special gift of, especially with the things he mentioned, right? Like Goonies and Stranger Things. That to me seems like a really nice mixture of this happy medium where it's not as serious as Andor and it might have more fun moments, but kind of like a good collective like union of those two tones.
Yeah. Do you guys know, did John Watts drop out of Fantastic Four to do Skelton Crew.
That's what it seems like. If you explore the actual full timeline of it
I was
all,
trying it just goes to the way he said. What I love is a filmmaker that is excited about what he's working on.
right.
So to drop out of Fantastic Four after you came up with 3 blockbuster Marvel films,
Right.
You know, you could tell like maybe his heart was into that. They wanted him. He's like, he's hot. They could do it, make a a ton of money. But he went and did Skeleton Crew, which is lesser profile.
It's not like he's not going to make some cash doing.
Of course,
Skeleton.
but it's a lesser profile than Fantastic Four MCU.
Right.
But I love that because it's a filmmaker that he has an idea or something that sparked him that's like, I got to tell this story, as opposed to, yeah, I'll go back with Marvel and do this. This will be, yeah, I can do this.
Agreed, but I think that he probably wanted to take a little time off from making movies, and I bet you television got him excited when he was doing The Old Man.
Yeah.
Of course it did. Working with me every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, but you know, also don't take away from the power of persuasion that Jon Favreau has. Jon Favreau probably saw him and John Watts. They've worked on the Spider-Man movies together. They're tight.
And he could potentially be doing a movie for Star Wars after Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if on No Way Home, Watts and Favreau started talking. He's like, "Come do Star Wars. Take a break from Marvel. Come do Star Wars."
You know, the vibe is different. Come on over here. It's gonna be me.
100%.
I'm your boss.
Yeah, and he's
come
like,
on over here, man. Just play in the sandbox. Come on.
Yeah, he's like, what do you wanted? He's like, yeah, I had this idea of what I could do. He's like, look, me and Dave can make that work.
I'll bet.
We can do this thing. We can play it all together. And what if your thing that what if what's your idea? What if those kids got it lost? We're doing this thing in the unknown regions. What if the kids got lost there? And they collaborate that way. You can see those conversations happen.
Come see the volume. Just see what we're doing.
Because
just hang out with us for a
there
little
was a Favreau Filoni verse that is happening inside of Star Wars, and that's this time period.
Now, okay, so we've talked about that, and you've always talked about, and I not fought you on it, but we talk about the connective universe. You want it to all be, and I'm like, it is connected, but you're like the Filoni Favreau thing. Makes
that's
so
about
much
as
more sense.
MCU as you get,
right? But don't you feel like everything needs to then be brought into that, or no?
It's
so weird.
It's harder to do because it's almost like you got to bring it's history, right? You're bringing all of history together. So in one way or another, whether it's a mention or those types of things, it's not so much that I think that you'd be able to do all that, but if you're gonna play in the Obi-Wan sandbox, right?
Yeah.
Then do the same thing you're doing in the Filoni's in that time period, right?
Okay.
You know, like and do it. So if you're gonna launch a High Republic or a end of High Republic series with the Acolyte, then make that a thing. Spin that off and then have a couple of them inside there. So there's a couple connected ones that you can franchise and you can branch off like that. Like that's why I've always to this day still said the Old Republic is your best bet to do that because you can play in that sandbox for years. Okay. And especially now after watching what The Last of Us is doing with Knights of the Old Republic, they can make this happen. They just have to have the balls to do it.
Okay.
Fair enough. All right, let's see. So, Steph, I'm gonna throw it to you here because we're gonna get. And you know what? Before we do that, before we go to Steph, and we'll do that on the way back in. I just want to tell you guys we're very excited. We have 2 brand new sponsors that I want to tell you about. I'm pumped to be working with Green Chef. I don't know if you guys have noticed. No one said anything, but I've been losing weight. Why? I've been taking care of myself, and one of those ways I've been partnered up with Green Chef. Really excited for them. Green Chef, it is a CCOF certified meal kit company. And Green Chef makes eating well easy with plans to fit everyday lifestyle, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or you're just looking to eat more balanced meals. Green Chef offers a range of recipes to suit your preferences. If you're looking to kickstart a keto diet in the new year, they make it easier than ever to keep a keto diet with a brand new limited time keto kickoff in 2023. They expanded their menu. You can choose from over 30 recipes weekly. You have the options to mix and match. It's amazing. It's a lot of fun too. If you crave more servings of a favorite recipe, you can now double the portions in your weekly order, and you can just do it with one click. They offer a 10-minute lunch. Each week's menu includes 2 convenient, low-prep, and nutritious lunch recipes ready in just 10 minutes. There's no cooking required, and it's perfect for when you're on the go or pressed for time at the office. Eat well at lunchtime. I'll tell you, that's exactly why, one of the main reasons, I have no time these days. It's hard. You guys know that once I went on my own and I started doing my own thing, it's awesome, it's liberating, it's free, but it's time consuming. And to run into the house and make and have lunches, it's tough. having it ready, knowing what I'm going to knowing what I'm going to have on this menu, knowing exactly what's right for me to be able to keep up with the diet and make sure that I can still stay healthy. Green Chef has been tremendous. Tremendous. And it's sustainable too, by the way. Their recipe features organic produce, premium proteins, and sustainably sourced ingredients. You can raise your food standards in 2023 and reap the flavor benefits. So, one of the main things you really need to do, you've got to use that code. You got to go to greenchef.com/thing60. It's thing60. Go to greenchef.com/thing60. Why is it 60? Because you get 60% off plus free shipping. It's really great. It is the #1 meal kit for eating well. Facts. Thank you to Green Chef. Help yourself. Help the show. Get yourself some Green Chef. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/bigthing and get on your way to being your best self. I'm so excited that BetterHelp is back. You guys know when we were with SEN, we were doing SEN Live, BetterHelp was with us, and we really were such major fans and so pumped to know that they are coming back to be with Big Thing. If you're at your best, you can do great things. And sometimes life gets you bogged down and you can feel overwhelmed, like you're not showing up in the way that you want to. I can tell you right now that this was the case for me. I've talked about this not too long, about a year ago. I was in that headspace. I was there, and I remember I'll be honest, BetterHelp. And it helped me tremendously. I've talked about it. And it's just you get into that rut. Working with a therapist, it can help you get closer to the best version of you. Because when you feel empowered, you're more prepared to take on everything that life throws at you. It helped me. Be able to talk to somebody, and I've mentioned this in the past. I've been in places when I've decided not to talk to people, and I got myself in trouble from doing it. I didn't talk to anybody. I let things bottle up inside. Don't do it. Because I'm telling you, when you talk to somebody, it helps. It really, really does help. If you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, it's flexible, it's affordable, and it's entirely online. You fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and then switch therapists anytime, no additional charge. If you want to live a more empowered life, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/bigthing today, and you get 10% off your first month. BetterHelp, HELP.com/bigthing. All right, so thank you again to both BetterHelp and Green Chef. Like I said, guys, there's a reason why we're getting these amazing sponsors, and it's because of you guys. You guys have been getting them. You guys have been commenting. You've been letting me know. And every single time that you get one of these sponsors, you help out the show and you help out yourself, especially in the case of both BetterHelp and Green Chef. I'm so excited to be working with them now. So thank you guys once again. All right, I'm going to throw to Steph here. Steph, we got some topics before we get to the questions. What do you want to talk about here?
I would love to talk about Amandala talking Acolyte production.
All right, let's do it. Miguel Fernandez, our buddy. The Sundance Film Festival is turning out to be an endless source of information from Star Wars personalities. Both Daisy Ridley and Alden Ehrenreich have been asked for their experiences with the franchise and their plans for the future while promoting their latest projects there. And now, the Acolyte lead, Amandala Stenberg, is the latest to join the party. Stenberg is currently promoting their film My Animal, and when asked by comicbook.com about their experience on the set of the Leslie Headland series, this is what Amandala said. What can I say that won't get me fired? Well, walking onto set, I'll just say this. This is vague enough. You know that it must take a lot of technical ability and craftsmanship to make Star Wars, but you have no clue how expansive it is until you're part of it. Whether it's the puppeteers or the costume designers or all the folks from all the different departments who build the sets, you don't realize how much incredible technology and foresight there is in every element until you're there. Stenberg is a self-professed Star Wars fanatic and even said during Comic-Con last year, so my whole life is Star Wars. When I wake up, I think about Star Wars. I love Star Wars. Before I go to sleep, I read Star Wars. I listen to Star Wars podcasts. You know, they are currently taking some time off from the Acolyte series in the UK to attend the festival, but business is proceeding as usual on the other side of the ocean. Before the holiday break, the series was filming in multiple places at the same time, following the strategy using Andor in Season 1 and Season 2, also in production right now. Headland's captain of the ship. She's the showrunner. She's executive producer, head writer, and even director of the pilot, and possibly some other episodes as well. So in other Acolyte news, Daphne Keene's agency confirmed in a listing that her character's name is Jecki. For now, there's no additional information, and there's really not much to speculate on. Here's the official synopsis for the show. The Acolyte is a mystery thriller, I love that already, that will take viewers into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. A former Padawan reunites with her Jedi Master to investigate a series of crimes, but the forces they confront are more sinister than they ever anticipated. I mean, I love that. All right, everything about this. So, Steph, you're the one that picked it. What do you think about Amandala's comments?
That's great. We read their comments about how they love Star Wars, breathe Star Wars, and we loved that. And I think it's really cool that they had such a good experience filming it.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about how much they're putting behind this project, especially because all the actors are pretty big names in television, and then the mystery thriller part. Have we heard that before?
Yes.
We knew it was going to be, I guess, a mystery, but I didn't hear the thriller part, which I'm excited about.
Same, and what I've heard about it in general that I love is that one of the greatest things about Andor, look, I love the volume. I really do. I think what the volume did as far as technology goes was so great, and what it was able to provide during like the pandemic was fantastic. My biggest concern with it was that, like any other piece of technology, is that they started to rely on it too much. And Andor started to go, they didn't use it. They went into locations. Now it takes longer and it takes more time to do, but I think it benefited from that.
Yeah.
Now Mandalorian has been using it well. I think Boba Fett and Obi-Wan looked at the fakest out of all of them. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I'm just to piggyback what you're saying. I wonder why that was. I wonder why the Mandalorian looks so good and Boba and Luke or Obi-Wan did not. I don't. I mean, there were scenes in Mando where I'm like, that. Where did they build that set? And I would see the behind the scenes. It's like, that
House
whole city was in the volume.
House of the Dragon did it well too.
How they did that versus I don't know if it's a time thing or who knows what or whatever, but. Like all CGI or stuff like that, or all technology, the best filmmakers always say that use it to enhance what you've got.
Right. Well,
don't just use it as a blanket thing to cover everything.
And I don't know if the Acolyte is going to use it at all.
Yeah.
But from what I've heard is that the Acolyte's using a lot of sets, and then as Amandala said,
shooting with Andor right next door, whatever they're saying. And now with that synopsis, I don't know if I've heard as much in that synopsis that I've heard yet. But I'm like, this has got really great. This sounds like old school Jedis in robes, going around Gothic structures with their lightsabers, dealing Star Wars trouble.
And they're living at a place where they're like the king of the castle. You know, they're running the shop. So the fact that they've got to do kind of this investigating reporting of something happening, because it can't end well for the Jedi and the Padawan. It can't, because it shouldn't.
Well, this is 100 years before Phantom Menace?
Something like that, yeah. You can't.
Well, no, the Jedi will be in their prime, right?
Yes, but remember, but those two particular Jedi cannot reveal. They can't reveal. If they discover that it's Sith, they can't reveal it. They can reveal that stuff's
so it doesn't
going
end
down.
well for them.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I thought you meant just in general.
No, these two particular,
that are
anyone that's involved in this investigation has to die without a word of it being spread. Yeah. And if they are spreading it, they're spreading it to the people that want it to be
And they'll say,
quiet.
We can't talk about this. They're going to die. They're dead. It ends here.
It has to.
No more words of this to anyone.
Yeah, it has to be, because remember, Maul says to Palpatine in Phantom Menace, he says, "At last we can reveal ourselves," because they don't know anything. Anybody who does it, because in the Darth Bane novels, a few of them find out, but he wipes them out. He kills
Let me
them.
ask you this.
Go ahead, Billy.
We're stuck on this. The beholden to what's come before. Are they going to play fast and loose with it? Like, man, we know he said that in Phantom Menace, but we're telling our own story now.
Could they play it loose? Yes, and they certainly did that in Obi-Wan, and I hated it.
Right.
They did that so many times in Obi-Wan. It was like, you guys can kind of figure it out.
And on the other hand, Andor, a little bit where he says the whole thing, I've been at this since I've been 6, where we did see him as a kid. In Rogue One, you assumed he was part of the rebellion at that early age, but he wasn't.
But he never. But it worked. That one was different because he never specifically said that.
I know, and they worked it.
But there's certain things,
and the show was so good.
Lucas was very guilty of that as well.
Of course. So I'm just hoping we're at a new point with Star Wars where they're going to be like, hey, these are incredibly important plot points that were established in these Phantom Menace movies. We got to behold to that.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, either way, Steph, I'm telling you, this show is on my highly anticipated, because not only this thriller aspect from Leslie Headland's experience in general, and because of Andor as well, I'm sure that she is like, you know what? I'm so glad that I'm able to kind of go down the route that I wanted to go originally, because now that Andor did what it did, it's going to give me a cushion. Like I can really play a little bit more because that stuff that played, it worked well. Because instead of, getting the Disney note of make it lighter, make it fluffier, make this and that, and that very well could happen, but this got to give you hope that we're going to go a little darker with this series.
Totally. I think you're absolutely right. I think Andor gave the green light. And then what's even better, which Mike might not care for, but we do, that they are going to have lightsabers.
Oh.
Like with this darkness, they're going to have Sith. Like that.
You're going to see lightsaber fights.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of them.
So great.
Of course I care. Like I want that. Like I got the one show that I said I wanted. Like I wanted to see in Star Wars, but I don't want to never be lightsabers and stuff.
Right.
I'm so curious of who's going to be
place.
who's going to be the this. Yeah, the
Big
Sith,
bad.
because you would look at it seems as if Amandala is the former Padawan reuniting with Jedi.
She's got to be the younger one.
Maybe
That's what it
Manny.
is.
Yeah.
What's that?
Manny Jacinto.
Is the Sith?
He has, like,
or,
a jawline
I think
that
he's
is
a
like-
Jedi. I think
You do?
I think he's the lead Jedi. I think that.
No, that's Lee Jung Jai.
Oh, is that
I think
okay?
so. Yeah, I
Okay,
think
so maybe you're right. So maybe so, because I think that Daphne Keene is going to be the Acolyte. I think Daphne Keene is going to be the Acolyte. Now, where this leads though to like Plagueis, right? Because if it is, and again, Plagueis could still be the apprentice of the Acolyte. Down the line, it's very possible. But we'll see how it all plays out. I'm very excited for this show. I can't wait. I think we will finally get some news and some footage at Star Wars Celebration. You'll probably be the one to see it. And for people who don't know, most likely, I am not going to be going to. I'm going to CinemaCon this year, so Steph is probably going to be covering Celebration for us. Fingers crossed. And
Just yell, what is she proposing?
yes,
You
please.
said.
Yeah, like we only did it a couple times last year.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. We're going to go into some other stories, but there's no other major ones. I think we hit it. I want to get to some of the questions. So let's get some of these questions here. We got a few of them. You guys have sent some questions in. We got them, and here's the first one. Christopher McLinden. Hey, Christian Arloff. Hey, man. Love the show. Hypothetical question regarding Andor. Would you be down with several episodes in Season 2 being solely dedicated to individual members of the Rogue One team in one episode per member for a more fleshed out backstory leading into the events of Rogue One? For me, probably not, because I don't. If there was like another season, but I know that this is it. This is Season 2. They're gonna have to. I want them to. Now I know we're getting a time jump. They told us that. But I want to see the formation of the rebellion of that crew that we know. I want to see Mon Mothma really step into that leadership. I want to see Mon Mothma and Bail Organa working together. I want to see Andor start to, grow into that hardened kind of badass that he is in Rogue One. I don't need to see the crew of Rogue One because we learned them in Rogue One. That's like Rogue One is the series finale to Andor.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Mike.
I've always enjoyed in stories where we have this team together, Ocean's 11, Mission Impossible type stuff, where we don't know the backstories of these characters. They're just brought in because of their skills. I would love, if we talk about characters, one character that would work, say Mon Mothma, I want K2SO. I want them.
Oh, they're going to bring him in.
I know they are,
Yeah.
but I want to see their bond because it is so strong in Rogue One. I want to see how that bond developed. Like the Han and Chewie bond.
Well,
and see
going
that.
off of that, and I know we did our bit with Brett on this, the whole how they did it in canon. And I was surprised because some fans were like, nah, they're not going to pay attention to that too. I think it is crucial for them in a certain aspect in the comic books, for canon comic books, they show the events of how K2SO and Andor meet.
Yeah.
If they decide to not do that, you cannot take Star Wars canon serious anymore. You just can't. I mean, as far as the comic books and novels, you just can't, because if you like to read the stories and you want to pay attention, and because you like Star Wars stories, then you should. But you can't read them anymore or going, oh, this is how it all happened, because if they decide it doesn't work for the narrative, that's the whole problem with doing it this way. But do you agree with me or do you disagree?
If they don't
If they don't do it the way that they did it in the comics.
Yeah, but the way they did it in the comics, I just don't.
You don't love it.
I don't. I mean, I think they're like, for your example of The Last of Us and bringing that to life. There's a way that they could add a character, take out a character, and keep the dignity of it.
That the comic, the game is not canon to the show. It is a adaptation of the show.
Yeah.
The novels. This is the problem with making everything canon, is that the comics and the novels are supposed to be actual history. So when you read it, it's not an adaptation of it. It is supposed to be how it went down. That's the problem.
That's true. I think that that they'll have a big decision to make.
Yeah.
This might be the decision, and
you think Tony Gilroy gives a crap about the comic books? Not at all.
Not at all.
He doesn't care if he's like, this doesn't work for my story.
Yeah.
And they'll
they'll go, okay, tell your story.
And to be honest, they probably should do that.
Yeah.
But get rid of this whole notion that anything inside of the comics and things are canon, because it's not anymore. They've changed it so many different times. That's why I stopped reading. I just stopped.
It's a tough line to walk, because it does happen, because that whole comic thing came about. I remember we started covering them because Disney was like, there's whole stories to tell. We just don't have the screen time for it. So tell them this, whereas the books in the past, like that's legend stuff. These comics should be canon.
Right.
Like everyone wants Dr. Aphra to come up. When she pops up, those comics ain't going to be what Dr. Aphra is. It's going to be their own take on it.
Right, because they didn't want her to be...
that happened for so many years with Marvel, the MCU, and it's like taking the movie characters and putting them into the comic books, and this in the comics can't happen because of the movies, and it's tough because the comics came before the MCU. These shows came before the comics and Star Wars, but now you're doing Star Wars comics.
But there's a difference also still, because the comics from Marvel were never said to be part of canon into the movies.
Right, sure.
That's the difference.
You're right.
Is that when you have all this stuff, because it's very similar to what the point was for Steph with this game. It's like, okay, fine. We're going to adapt some of the things that we loved about the Ultron comic, and implement that into the movie. Because they don't play together.
Right.
Kathleen Kennedy comes out in 2012. Everything that we do, it's all one connected story.
Yeah.
And then they go, nah, not this time. It's like, well, wait a minute.
That's a problem.
But I'm reading the story because I wanted to know. I always wanted to know how K2SO and Andor met. Well, we're going to tell you.
Yeah. And then a filmmaker comes along 5 years later.
Just
like,
kidding.
Nah.
I want to tell that story.
Just
like,
kidding.
yeah, don't worry about that.
Which is totally fine if that's the case. Like, they had their take. Just don't tell me that that's how it actually happened in history.
But the ship has sailed.
I know, but they got to change it then. They got to say, like, look, we have too many confusions of because of filmmakers and stuff too, because it's a misrepresentation of what it is, and you're false advertising to your consumers. That's what that comes down to. Because if I want to go and I'm trying to find a story, like I always wanted to really know how this plays in. It's like, no, this is that particular person. This is this author's representation of it, but it doesn't really. But it's just how they assume, like how the legends are, like that Darth Bane story. That Darth Bane story is not in canon how it all went down. But I love those stories. But I know that it's not connected to it. But I love those stories.
Here's the thing: the Star Wars fans, that are Star Wars fans, they watch, read everything. It's not like the casual people's like, I don't read the comics. I just pop in for this episode. So that is a huge thing, and that's why they're getting that focus in the feed of the Star Wars comics. Like, I don't read the Star Wars comics really a lot. There's a couple I'll pop up every now and then, but it's not my thing. But to say that and then to take that away, that's massive, because it's
I know
it's getting the areas that they want that you don't.
You are essentially taking it away, though.
Yeah, you are.
If you don't, and this is my point. I think that it's a hard handcuff for the filmmakers, but it's if you want to not take it away, you are. If you don't make that canon on how they meet, you are taking it away. Right. If it's very similar to what Steph was just saying, if it's a version of that story. Like if you adapt it, but it's kind of like that, but a little different, but it's similar, then you can do it. I'm very curious as to how that's going to play, but very curious. All right, let's get to the next question. Great question, though. Thank you so much. Jim Mason, what do you all think the key ingredient would be to make a new trilogy of films successfully, especially if they weren't connected to the Skywalker saga? Steph, let's start with you.
A plan.
yeah, 100%. That was my answer too.
I would say Jim. It was his name, right, Jim?
Yep.
You hit it in your own statement. Not make it a part of the Skywalker. No Skywalker in there. Do not mention a Skywalker. Don't even make it a new trilogy, separate from anything that's come before. Well, that's the first.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the other thing.
Step one.
Yes, and I think that this is also the benefit of the television series, right? Yeah. this is why I think establishing this unknown regions thing is genius, because you can set so many stories. If this unknown regions thing becomes popular, and this whole thing where Thrawn sets up, you could keep Thrawn alive for years. Thrawn could be a villain, because then you could say, like, well, why didn't Thrawn come back, and how come he's not around during the Rey era? Because he's out in the unknown regions causing dominance. He's a leader out there. He's a dictator out there. He's doing. And I'm not saying they'll probably defeat him, but this is my point, that you can put anybody out there and say it's so far away to where that these kids got lost, like these things, like Grogu. That's where Grogu is. You know, that's where he's been the whole time. That's where Ahsoka's been. How come Ahsoka hasn't been? I mean, I know she shows up as a ghost or an array, but you get my point,
Right.
And by establishing this kind of new region that we've never explored before, that the Empire has no say over, or nobody does. Nobody has any. The rebellion, new rebellion, whoever, new whatever the fuck they're whatever.
First Order.
First Order. No, not First Order.
Final Order.
Well, who's the Resistance? Resistance, all of them. The New Republic, they can't get there. And so this is a great idea, because it's probably their fix of saying, like, well, they set up so many, JJ and Ryan, they set up so much rules and stuff that we got to follow. If they set up the unknown regions, it's a new government, it's new heroes. It's
What do you mean by they say they can't get to it? Has that been established that it's an area that is just
I'm just saying,
uncharted?
like, so no, well, yeah. The unknown regions are like they're not charted. It's like very, you know how hard it was to find Octu, like times 1,000.
They just needed a knife and a map. That's
Right.
all you needed.
Right, but you can't find the unknown regions, and it's like, imagine if you set this up well enough, the unknown regions, a new government, new heroes, tons of Jedi there if you wanted to, tons of, like, as it starts to get set up. I don't know, Steph, what do you think about that theory?
I think that would be great. Like, I think that it is kind of for the next few years will be easier to make new stories and that, and then let's say in 5-10 years you can revisit where we've already established.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to the next. I think as far as that question goes, though, I think that setting up, I agree with Mike, setting up things outside of this trilogy for their next trilogy. I don't think that you never do anything that connects to that timeline.
I agree.
But setting stuff up outside for the next one, I agree with Mike. I think whether you put it in the Old Republic, in the unknown regions, any of that stuff. All right, let's go to the next question. Thank you again, Jim, for that question. Daniel Kogat, would you rather have the Darth Bane novels developed as a film trilogy or a series? 1,000% a series. I think because of what Steph just said before with Last of Us. Now, this is a different situation from adaptation. This is what I have been just trying to throw out there, and hopefully The Last of Us is an indication of what you can do, right? Where you can adapt something, a story that people know or that people have read, and do it the right way and do it in a way that's detailed. A Last of Us movie would have been ruined. You would have tried to, I mean, the first episode alone is an hour and a half. You would have had to cram, 10 hours of storytelling into a 2-hour movie, and you lose it. And in 3-hour movie, okay, fine. So what is it? However many, do the math, however many episodes, that is still not enough into 6 hours of film. When it comes to novels, when it comes to video game adaptations, I'm saying there's not some novels you can condense into a 2-hour movie. You can, or 6-hour trilogy, sure. But if you established you're looking at 3 or 4 seasons of Darth Bane with those 3 books. If you do it like 8 episodes for some, maybe 10 episodes, and you get so much more detail, and you can really get into the nitty gritty of what that is all about. And in movies, the problem with movies is you have to get people to want to spend their money on those tickets. So at the very end of each movie would have to be these big, elaborate, expensive battle scenes, right? You should have battle scenes in TV as well, too. I mean, look at Game of Thrones. They do it all the time. But you lose the dialogue, you lose the character development in a half an hour thing, and now you only have about an hour and 20 minutes to develop your story and your characters. So, no, in no world would I want to see a Darth Bane trilogy in movies. I'd want to see a series.
Absolutely. I think that a series, when you're establishing a character that established all the movies to come, that a series is what would make sense.
And another reason, though, Mike, too, that I think that a Darth Bane, you've got a better chance historically to lead a series with a bad guy, and I don't even think. And by the way, I don't even think they'll ever do either one of these because I don't think Disney has the balls to lead a television show with a bad guy. The Acolyte is not even going to be led by a bad guy. It's going to be led by the Jedi and the former apprentice. It's got the best possibility for a villain to lead a TV show than you ever going to have a Star Wars movie lead with a villain, because it doesn't end. That trilogy does not end with the good guys. It ends with the bad guys, with Darzana. So, what do you think?
You make good points.
You don't know what we're talking about, so you don't want to be involved.
Of course I know what you're talking about, but I just know that, like, it's funny you say that. I watched your video on The Last of Us you're talking about with the and they talk about the video game curse and whatnot.
Yeah.
And this video games are long form storytelling. They just are.
Right.
And to cram 2 hours into a game that you could play for 40 hours, it just doesn't work. So this Last of Us cracked it. It's just like, Uncharted, could be as better as a movie, I would think. And Uncharted,
do you think so? I don't
because
know, man.
It's Indiana Jones to me.
Yeah, but
Uncharted is Indiana Jones. Nathan Drake is Indiana Jones.
Yes.
You could tell a concise story.
But you don't think that could work as a 10-hour?
Anything that could work as a movie can work as a TV
how
show. But I don't
evolved
think
that-
everything that works as a TV show could work as a movie.
I agree. But anyway, so much. But to answer your question, I think
A Darth Bane TV show.
Yeah,
Yes.
in no world would I want to see that as a trilogy of movies. Please no. All right, let's go next one. Okay, so this is from Noah John. By the time Ahsoka and Sabine find Ezra, could Thrawn have convinced Ezra to join him? Would be a good way to set up high stakes for a second season. I love all your shows and the balance of comedy and serious you bring. Thank you so much, Noah. I love this question. I mean, I love it. I would love for them to take Ezra and make him a villain that he's kind of Thrawn's Vader. That would be amazing. The problem is this. Mike's never watched Rebels, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people have not seen Rebels. I mean, the argument can be made Mike tunes in to see Rebels, tunes in to see Ahsoka, sees Ezra and goes, oh, this guy's a bad guy. And doesn't know his history, and maybe it doesn't affect him at all. And it's just who he is. He just starts off, and if he wants to go back and learn his history, he can go back. But it's just, how much explaining are they going to have to do on Ezra in general, if that's the case? I love the idea of him having like a Vader and it's Ezra, but I just don't understand how that would have all went down.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun, but also remember, I know this like kind of forgoes your point, but for everyone who's watched Rebels, you know that this is the exact storyline of what almost happened with him and Maul.
Right.
Maul tried
that's
to,
right.
Right, tried to get him on his side.
Good point. Great point.
And then it didn't, and that was a part of Ezra, realizing that wasn't for him.
You really have to see how Thrawn was able to do it, considering that his will wasn't broken by Maul. How did Thrawn get to do it? Yeah, so I guess, and also you want to, in who you're casting to play, because aren't you casting Ezra? Because Ezra at this point is he's serious, but because he was real fun and kind of, he was Aladdin, really was what he was. And I think, by the way, that's why Mina Musa didn't get the role.
He was too much.
Yeah.
He was a ladder, because I think that
I wouldn't have cared.
Yeah, I wouldn't have cared either. I think that with Mina Musa, everyone thought that he could play him, and I think since the second Ezra was created in Rebels, the look and everything, everybody compared him to Aladdin. Everybody did. Now casting Aladdin to play him, what are you saying? Either way,
no one would know that except for us.
I know, I agree with you, but I think
for
that
general audiences, I think you get too caught up in what studios see in this small bubble of
True.
Hollywood, where it's like the general audiences, the family in Kansas that is tuned
They wouldn't
into
care
this
as
My
much.
parents
Disney
would
show, they
have
don't
no
care.
idea.
I would have loved to see him. I think Mina Musa was the perfect Ezra. I don't know this new actor. I have no idea if he even was cast.
I agree completely.
So he could be great.
Yeah.
He could be great, but I like Mina Musa a lot. I wish he would have gotten cast. All right, last one, because Mike's got to get the hell out of here. So let's do one more and then we'll call it a day. Here we go. Oyvind Sans, and I'm sorry if I didn't get that right. Ewan McGregor says that he's open for a season 2 of Obi-Wan. Do you think it will happen? And what should the story be for a second season? This is a very interesting question because the show did amazing in the ratings,
Right.
as it should. They sold it on Vader, which Vader shouldn't be in the second season. I don't think he would be. They Kathleen Kennedy talked pretty openly that they were open for a second season after but she did that thing that she always does once something's successful, but then once the blowback started coming back for the show a little bit, then it got a little bit more quiet. But Ewan McGregor even said that it'd be up for a second season because they talked about how it was supposed to be kind of like a one-off thing, and then they started talking about it. I think it will happen. I don't necessarily think it should, but I think it will happen. I think that if you look at where we're now in a particular time where we've talked about in the past, where we were saying like, look, in 2023 we're going to have 3 shows, and that was like when we were talking about that a year and a half ago. We're in 2023, so in 2024 we know that we got Andor. We don't know when Mandalorian season 4 will come out. It'll probably either be 2024 or 2025. But what's in 2024? I think we're going to get some announcements at Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah.
And I think that Obi-Wan season 2 will be one of them. What do you think, Seth?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think Ewan is saying this to kind of be like, I'm proud of what we did, and like just like set this tone of like 10 toes down in it, and is like, yeah, of course I'd be excited for a season 2, but I don't think that the story is there really.
Not yet, anyway.
Yeah,
I agree, Mike. What do you let me ask you this: do you think that they're gonna? Well, first of all, do you think there's going to be season 2, and if so, do they announce it at Celebration?
Okay, I don't think it gets announced Celebration, but I think there will be.
You think it will be?
I think we'll never seeing Book of Boba Fett Chapter 2.
Yeah,
that's
think
never
you're
happening.
Probably right.
No.
Obi-Wan, for all the wrong reasons, we're going to get another Obi-Wan.
I think you're right.
I don't think there's a story to be told.
Yeah.
I think about this. Okay, he went off on this battle comes like, hey, you got to help me on this. Oh, Jesus. All right, I will. So someone else going to come to him and say, hey, Obi-Wan, you got to help me with this. I would rather know that he is in that desert by himself in exile, because that's the terrible thing of what's happened to his world, and he is now by himself alone, rotting away, like just dying, essentially living his death.
Totally. Here is two. So
until New Hope, where he gets that one final. Don't more adventures. Like,
here's what I'd like to see if they're going to do it. First of all, I would rather them use Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan in other stories, right?
Do you mean flashbacks to them de-aged?
So hold on. So 2 things. The first part of it is whether or not it's Bail Organa doing a side mission in something like Andor, shows up, has a quick scene with him. He shows up there. He shows up as a Force ghost for some moment, whatever it might be. You can use him whenever. You can use him in flashbacks in certain scenes, whatever. If they were going to do an Obi-Wan season 2, my pitch of it would be that it would be a younger Obi-Wan, and it would be an Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars era, and it would be an Obi-Wan. The story that was the most intriguing in all of Obi-Wan that we've mentioned on this show a million times over was the conversation he had with Leia about how he was taken as a younger kid by the Jedi and about his brother and all that. Let me see that story.
So you want a different actor, young actor.
But then you can also play into
do flashbacks.
You flashback. You can do young Indiana Jones.
There we
do
go.
it like that. You do a season 2 of like how you play off of that conversation of how he became a Jedi. Show me that. I want to see like a young Obi-Wan and with his brother. Like who's his brother? Like as opposed to them flying around with crate dragons and talking to Qui-Gon in the desert. It's like who cares?
Here's your story hook. He's in his hovel. You know, we didn't see his home that he built where we see him in New Hope.
Yeah.
So that's him finding the place, going through his chest, he opens up, pulls out an old artifact. Boom, flashback.
Right.
To that storyline. So book ends with Obi-Wan.
You were kind of hoping what we did for Book of Boba Fett, where it's each chapters, right?
Yeah, it starts the episode with old Obi-Wan, ends with old Obi-Wan. In between is younger. He's still, yes.
Yeah.
That I go 100% for.
So they did that thing in the comics. Again, you could take the comics was when his journal, like the stuff that he went through in his journal, and like the adventures of Obi-Wan, like Obi-Wan season 2, adventures that he went on. Ultimately, what we thought he was going to do, you just said, what we thought was going to happen in Book of Boba Fett, the chapters each, a chapter in Obi-Wan's life, every episode is whether it's Clone Wars, whether it's maybe one episode is in Tatooine, maybe it's with he fights the freaking the what's his face in Obi-Wan, the Wookiee, he fights that thing.
Black Chrysanthemum?
Yeah, and like Adventures of Obi-Wan through what they were going to do with the Tales of the Bounty Hunter.
The Jedi are being wiped out. Jocasta Nu's gone with the Jedi temples. Like this is his way to remember the Jedi. So if anyone ever finds this journal of his, it's a document of what he did.
Right, he goes through his journal.
That's your story hook.
Yeah, if you went, if you follow the journal from the comic books, that could be it. But they won't do that.
No, they won't.
They'll trot through. He'll be trotting through Tatooine. with
hiding
with the
again
ghost
and-
of Qui-Gon, and then they'll say, "Well, we need to bring Vader in.
Yeah,
we got to bring
Vader-
Vader." in."
There's rumors
And then
of the
Reva
Force
will
again
show
on
up again,
Tatooine.
and everyone will lose their minds. So it's like, no.
I think they should just leave it.
I think they should leave it.
Yeah.
And we're going to leave you guys.
And we're gonna leave it.
Yeah, so that's it. Thank you guys for joining us here on Big Thing Sith Council. Really happy that you joined us. Thank you so much to our sponsors today. Once again, help yourselves out. Get yourself one of those sponsors today. Thank you guys so very much. If you haven't already joined the podcast, please do that. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. Very helpful. Subscribe to the channel today. Get us to 70,000, please. Patreon.com/The Big Thing Show. Get yourself a Sith Council shirt. We are in the lead. Out of all the shows, the Sith Council
Hell
is
yeah.
in the lead, everybody. So get that. You can also get a You Don't Know Ish. That's up there now, too. And I got that for Steph yesterday. And then we've got the Black Knight shirt. So you can get that also.
Black Knight.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Steph, where can they find you?
At Steph Sabron at the World Girls.
Yeah, don't eat some garlic.
Never again.
And Mike?
At Mike Kalinowski.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Perfect. All right, guys. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you, and we'll see you on the flip side. It is Sith Council, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
I can feel your anger. It gives you focus, makes you stronger.